I love how Jesus can take the Pharisees' crafty questions, see through them, and provide even craftier answers in return. Give to the emperor what's the emperor's. Give to God what is God's. So simple on the surface, such a poetic response, and yet so deep it almost makes you dizzy to think about it for too long. If we could just all give to God what is God's, what a beautiful place this would be. And yet we know in our human form, it isn't simple. Our nature drives us to want to protect ourselves and ask questions like, haven't I worked hard for this? Studied, labored, saved, sacrificed? Don't I deserve this? Paul addresses our inherent human desire to carve out what is ours in his first letter to the Corinthians. What do you have that you did not receive? And if you received it, why do you boast as if it were not a gift? In my case, I was born in the United States. I live in a place that not only offered and protected, but also required my education. I was able to study successfully because it was my top concern. Not safety, not hunger, not housing. The list goes on. Sure, I've worked hard to use the talents and opportunities given me, but there is no denying that all that I have has been largely beyond my control from day one. So if it is clear that all we have is from God, how can we work toward that aspiration to be the cheerful giver that Paul describes? A few years ago, I had the opportunity to lead a Sunday school class in a 4-week effort to write This I Believe statements. For those of you unfamiliar, This I Believe was a radio series on NPR in the 1950s. It sought people from all walks of life, scientists, athletes, celebrities, average Joes, to summarize their core values in 3 minutes or less, and then record them in their own voice. About 10 years ago, the series was revived, and a curriculum was written to facilitate workshops in houses of worship. I tell you all of this because I wrote my entire belief statement in 2015 around the importance of stewardship. Of course I didn't. Or at least I didn't think that I had. I wrote mine about traditions. It said this: I believe in traditions. I'm the girl who's gone to the same beach with the same family members 1 week of every summer since I was an infant. While there, we run pretty much the same schedule each day that we did in my childhood. After a mandatory family breakfast, we head out to the beach. The first one's back, shower, and make lunch. In the afternoon, people can take naps or play games or visit on the porch. When the sun subsides, another crew hits the water again. Dinner is a home-cooked group celebration followed by more games. This summer will mark my 40th consecutive trip. Camps, summer jobs, marriage, children, nothing has ever broken that tradition. But it's not just my vacation traditions I love. I love cooking the same thing for breakfast every Christmas morning. I love making signs for my kids, so when they wake up on their birthdays every morning, their age is posted all over the house. I love that every Martin Luther King Day, my family volunteers together. I love seeing my children's eyes light up when they tell others about our traditions of our Advent house or grandparent camp, or knowing exactly what to expect for dinner when they go to Nan and Papa's house. When I dig down to understand why I'm drawn to traditions, I think it's because, honestly, I'm a bit of a slow learner, or perhaps better put, a poor retainer. I can learn anything for a test, but whether it will actually be remembered a week or a year from now is a different story. I need repetition for mastery, and I believe our Christian lives are the same. We need the repetition and the tradition to experience the depth and richness of God's love. The vastness of this love is just too much to comprehend the first time or the 100th time around. To me, it's no surprise that Jesus told his disciples, "Do this in remembrance of me." He understood our need for repetition to reach a fuller understanding and appreciation of what is in front of us. Each time I kneel at the rail to receive Eucharist, it brings me such a sense of peace. I'm able to start my new week focused on what I can do rather than what I've already done. Without this weekly reminder of forgiveness and grace, I'm afraid my focus would be in the wrong direction. Traditions allow me the grace of time. Mastery is not an urgent requirement because there'll be more time to practice. Emphasis remains on overall intent rather than on individual perfection. Because even if we don't get it right 100% of the time, I know there'll be another shot. This is why our beach trip can be just about perfect every year, despite a grumpy day, an ear infection, or a dead car battery. The tradition smooths out the rough edges with its pure intent of uniting a family, much like the ocean smooths the sand on the beach each day for a beautiful new beginning. Now, as I began preparing for this stewardship sermon, I struggled because, of course, I am not qualified to preach on stewardship. Yes, Steve and I give. Do we give enough? Yes, we love our neighbors. Do we love our neighbors as ourselves? Are we always cheerful givers? Do we hold the things of this earth loosely? Are we doing what we've been called to do? I know I came up with a lot longer list of questions than I did of answers. And then this I believe statement came to my mind. Traditions allow me the grace of time. Emphasis remains on overall intent rather than on individual perfection. What a perfect description of stewardship. Stewardship has become more important to me every year of my life. I wouldn't claim to have achieved mastery, but I think our family is on a wonderful journey. Much of that is because we stopped waiting for the perfect start. Instead, we jumped in, made a long-term goal, and continue to grow this tradition. Along the way, beautiful things have happened. Alone, Steve and I could not make the impact that we're able to make as part of the wonderful St. Catherine's community. Jumping into something bigger than ourselves to serve a cause larger than our own is deeply humbling and gratifying. Since we've been at St. Cat's, we have seen our pledge and commitment to this church grow along with many others. We have watched a youth house built and expanded. We've witnessed children growing into youth and young adults that we are proud to know. We've even seen one of them go full circle and return to St. Catherine's on staff. We've watched our outreach ministry absolutely flourish due to the generosity of everyone in this room, and I am forever grateful for that. We have witnessed a loving and caring community accept and nurture those both inside and outside of our walls. We've had to say sad goodbyes, but those have also allowed for new hellos. Steve and I have raised our children here, and now are watching them make choices to give of their own time, talents, and treasures. While there have been bumps along the way, just like on the annual beach trip, only this time they've been failed ministry ideas, Sunday mornings where we arrive a little grumpy or disheveled, days of personal uncertainty, the tradition of our commitment to St. Catherine's remains firm and beautiful. I know it sounds simplistic, but consider making stewardship of your time, talents, and treasures a tradition. Think about it the way you might a holiday. Anticipate it. We don't ask ourselves if we're going to participate in Easter this year. We know we are. It's a liturgical tradition. Rather than considering questions of if, our questions and experiences become richer. If I don't have to ask myself if I'm going to show up, I know I am. It's a tradition. I can start asking other things. How is God leading me to grow in my faith? How can I give back to this ministry that has touched me? Am I being called to lead others? How will my pledge help make a difference for a church spreading light, love, and mercy in today's world? Let's embrace the tradition of giving joyfully to God. We have time to master this because we are in it for the long haul. There might be bumps along the way, but the tradition allows for a journey full of grace and unending love. Amen.